Hello, I'm Jagan from Grow with Data. Welcome to the Crack SQL Interview in 50 question series. In this video series, we will practice 50 SQL questions across various topics. You can use the playlist Crack SQL Interview in 50 questions to follow the videos related to this series. For each video in this series, you can find the related code on my GitHub. Feel free to explore the code and provide any feedback in the comment section. If you go to the YouTube channel Grow with Data, you have the playlist section where you can see the Crack SQL Interview in 50 question series. If you go there, you can see all the videos related to that series. If you want to see the code, then you can go to the comments description part and you can see the code in the GitHub link. When you click on it, it will take you to the script where you have the create script and all the SQLs used in that exercise. Right. Now we are going to dive into the 13th video of the series. In this video, we are going to continue with the basic join. Let's see the data set and then we can talk about the question in detail. So we are given a table called employee. Let's create the table. So this table got employee ID, employee name, the department and the manager ID. If you see a manager or employee have manager as null, that means that employee don't have a manager. So what they are looking for is we have to find the managers with at least 5 direct reportees. We can report the result in any order, right? One of the conditions they say is not the employee can't be the manager for himself. For example, 101 don't have a manager, fine. So 102 is Dan, he can't be manager of himself, right? So 102 can't be manager of himself. So that's the basic rule. And we have the employee, the name, department, manager ID. So what they're expecting is we have to find the name of the manager who got 5 or more reportees. The output has to be like this, the name. So John is the only manager who is having more than 1 reportees. If you see 102 who is Dan, right? So Dan have Kenny and Pondian as their reportees. And 103 is James, he got Ricky as his reportee. So if you see the flow, Ricky reports to James and James reports to John. And Kenny and Pondian reports to Dan and Dan reports to John. So you can say James and Dan are managers and John can be a senior manager kind of thing, right? So that is the flow. So the eligible manager is only John. Let's see how to comment this out. Okay, so how to get that? So first step is find all the managers who got more than 5 or more reportees, right? First you get that, and if you want to get the name of the managers, then you have to connect with the same table with the employee ID and you can get the name. That is a simple one. Let's try to do it. Select from PLOY employees. So what are you looking for? The manager ID. Manager ID from the employees table. You say group by manager ID and say having count of employee ID greater than or equal to 5, right? So if you see this employee, so we got the manager ID 101. If you want to see all the managers and how many reportees for each manager, we can just say count of employee ID and we should filter the null, but for now we don't do it because there is one null manager ID, we don't have to see it, but yes. So 101 got 5 reportees, 102 got 2 and 103 got 1. So only eligible manager ID is 101. Let's have this, but the output is expected to have the name, not the manager ID. So how to do that? Let's start with the CT table with eligible managers as we take this as a temp table. We just say select from eligible managers, say inner join employees. So how will you connect the eligible managers to get the name? We connect the manager ID to the employee ID. So employee table dot employee ID equal to manager dot manager ID. Now we connect the table. To get the name, we have to use the employee table dot name as, we say manager name, right? And when you run this, employee, why say employees again? So we got the manager name as John. So here they gave name, but yeah, we just change that to manager name. That's fine. So John is the only manager who is eligible for this. But this table, you see John is the only manager and the employee ID is the unique identifier. For example, this table got a small extension saying that the employee ID and the department is the unique identifier, right? If that is the case, then what is going to happen? Let's twist this data set a little bit. Okay, let's have this. Here John is handling department A as well as department B, right? There's manager who can handle more than one department. That's fine. If this is the data set, will our SQL return the same answer? It should, right? Yes, it's bringing in the name of John, but the problem is it just shows twice, right? Got A and B as two records. So when you connect the manager ID with the employee table, it brings in the first row and the second row. But we need the manager as a one record, right? We need distinct names. I said answer myself. So distinct e name. So we don't get the duplicates even if the manager handles more than one department. That's fine, right? We address that issue. Now we go with the next level of question. Like if there is more than one employee having the same name and they handle more than one department, right? Then what will happen? Let's take the table, right? We have John. You can copy this record and you put it here. Okay, now if you see the data, employee 101 who is John handles department A and B, and there is one more manager 111. He is also John and he is also handle more than 5 employees, right? So employee 101 and 111, both the managers are eligible now. So if you create, just comment this out. Okay, now if you insert the record with employees, more than one employee have the same name. So what will happen? Still we get only one John. The reason is we just get distinct e name, right? So if you bring in the EMP ID, let's comment this data set. Okay, now if you run this, now you have two managers, manager John, employee ID 101 and manager John, employee ID 111, right? Now we got two employees, but our output has to be only the name, right? Even though the name is same, we want to bring both the names together. If I remove the distinct, then the initial row, right, who handle more than one department will be duplicated. If I don't remove it, then I am going to miss the second John, the 111. So how will I address this? The easier way to do this is, we just say group by e dot name. When I say only e dot name, it's the same thing, right? Distinct and the group by is going to work the same. But I am going to add e dot emp id. Even though I show only the name, I can add one more column to the emp id. But I can't do that on the order by, right? If I say order by e dot name, it works, right? But if I try to add one more column which is not in the select statement and do order by, it works again, surprising. Okay, I don't have two columns, but still, okay, might be. If I say 2, it might throw an error. Yeah, okay, interesting. So even if I give a column which is not in the select statement, it just works. Okay, but the key takeaway here is in the group by statement, whatever column in the select statement which is non-aggregate, you can just give it, plus you can add columns which is not in the select statement. Okay, so this will help you to handle these kind of scenarios where you have to show the record which is supposed to be not duplicated, but you only show only the name, it shows as duplicate. If you show the employee ID along with it, then we can see that both the Johns are different, right? So technically you have to bring in the employee ID also to the side to show that both are different, but the requirement is to show only the name, like scenarios like the product names, right, or the sequence numbers kind of thing, right? If there is different products which has the same hierarchy part of it, then these kind of scenarios might work. Right? So the takeaway here is we can use group by columns which is not in the select statement. Now can we change this SQL a bit? Instead of with CTE table, can I do a left join, because we learned left join for a while, right? So can we do this into a left join or inner join, however you want, right? So how will I modify this to a inner join, because we just do a inner join to the CTE table, right? So there is no point of doing a left join, but okay. So we take the CTE table script, we just remove this. So instead of eligible managers, we just simply replace that SQL here, right? So instead of the CTE table name, I just replace that with the script I used for the CTE table, right? Even this will work. So the advantage of using CTE table is I can refer this table more than once. Like even if I have a second level of SQL, right? If I want to have one more sub CTE table, right, then I can use the eligible managers more than once. But here if I use this as a subquery, then I can use this data set only in this select statement, right? So if I want to create a CTE table with test as, right, when I do select here, then I can't reference this data set outside the select statement here, right? But when I use the CTE table, I can reference this how much ever times I want, right? So that's the advantage of a CTE table. You just execute it once, that data will be stored in that CTE table, and you can use that however you want in the the subqueries, right? So that's the advantage of it. So instead of having this CTE table or this subquery, we have something called a self join, right? We just learned the self join part. So this is one of the good examples to use the self join. So how will I use self join for this scenario? So let's take this part, right? And then we just try the self join. So instead of the eligible managers, I can just call even the employee table directly, and I say this is the manager and this is the employee. So manager tables manager ID should be the employee tables employee ID, and then you just say the group by part, just have the employee tables name and thing, and in the select statement you can just have the employee as a name, and when you have the filter condition you just say having count of distinct manager.emp id greater than or equal to 5, right? So you get the same answer. Since the employee ID is supposed to be distinct in the initial scenario, you can just say it, but since one manager can handle more than one department, it's better to have a distinct here, right? So instead of having a CTE or the subquery, we can just have a self join, but the disadvantage of self join is you are using the employee table more than once here. But again, to get the name, we have to use employee table twice. But there are scenarios where you can use only once in the CTE table and you can repeat the table. But in this scenario, all the SQLs are using employee table twice. So it's not going to make much difference. And the self join is going to be one of the simpler SQL to reference, right? So only thing is you have to be sure which column you have to point here. Should you use e.name or m.name? If you put m.name, then it's going to give you a wrong result. Okay, here order by we say m. Okay, so when you do this, okay, group by m dot. Okay, so when I say m dot name, it's not going to show you any result here, right? So we have to make sure which column you have to use, from the primary table or from the secondary table, right? So you have to be sure that when you do a self join, make sure you have the right column reference for the table, right? That's the only part in the complex part in the self join. Other than that, self join is one of the easier SQL for this scenario. Hope you like this video and thanks for watching.